Yes, folks, hello, welcome to Mod Extra Games and Collectibles. I'm Chris, this is my channel, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you with me here today. And folks, it is time for another instalment of
Listen to your friend Chris,
in which I ask you to listen to me, your friend Chris, as I talk about the action figure collectible news, stuff that's caught my eye over the last week, or the last 3 weeks, as the case may be in this particular instalment, because I had a couple of weeks off over the festive break. So, yeah, I'm just going to talk over some stuff that's caught my eye in the adult collectible world, and I invite you then to head down to the comments below and get into conversation with me about what I've said on the video, and that's the long and the short of it. So yeah, stick around for 6 seconds, let's get into it. Okay then, folks, well, just a couple of things really that have caught my eye to talk about in this instalment today. It's been a little quiet over the festive season, and regular viewers will notice that I'm putting this out a little bit later in the week than I normally do. It's because I was waiting for a bit of news to pick up pace, and there was one particular piece of news that I was kind of watching with interest. Yeah, there's only a couple of bits and bobs here and there. And how I roll, if you're new around these parts, if this is your first time joining me, is I have this little whiteboard on my iPad, and then as I'm cruising around the social medias, just kind of checking out my favorite toy suppliers, my favorite toy retailers, my favorite adult collectible local stores and stuff. Anything that crops up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook that catches my eye, I grab the picture, drop it on the whiteboard, and then I share the whiteboard live with you here now and talk through it. So let's begin. Let's get started, and I'm going to slide over here to a Bravestarr figure that was knocking around on Instagram. I saw this from 5K Toys, I think, off the top of my head. They were advertising this. That is being produced by Dasin Toys, who I'm unfamiliar with. I don't know this third-party manufacturer. This is obviously an unlicensed version of the Bravestarr character, although Bravestarr is obviously a popular nostalgia character from the cartoons. Back in the day, I used to watch Bravestarr. It caught my eye, though. It was of interest to me for a couple of reasons. I mean, first, it looks like a half-decent figure. You know, if I zoom in on it there, it's got a kind of cartoony aesthetic, cartoony vibe to it, which is obviously leaning very heavily into the nostalgia for the original animated series. The articulation looks solid. It's got some nice textures, some nice details in there. It's definitely loaded up with a wide selection of accessories, with all the face swaps, with the different facial expressions, different weapons, hand swaps. The hat is removable, so it's got a lot of personal preference, you know, man-child playtime opportunity within there, so it's eye-catching in that respect. You know, it's just generally a good-looking figure. But it was curious to me because it didn't feel like all that long ago ramble-y Toys announced a Bravestarr figure. Again, unlicensed, so they're calling it the Marshall, and all likenesses to the licensed Bravestarr character are purely coincidental, as is, I believe, in this instance too. And I thought, isn't that odd how two third-party, overseas import unlicensed figures on the same character have just kind of cropped up in the same, 6-month period, which was curious. However, this one from Dasin Toys appears to be getting advertised at a retail price of around $45, or around sort of 36, 37 quid here in the United Kingdom, compared to the ramble-y Toys one, which here in the UK was, well, last time I looked, which was on Kapow Toys, who I'm friendly with, great independent adult collectible store here in the UK. They were advertising it for $70, I think, off the top of my head. So quite a price disparity there. Now, for comparison, I did grab the ramble-y Toys picture. There he is there. And it definitely appears to be a little bit more detailed. There's more paint applications there. When you look at the gloves and the texturing, the kind of fabric texturing in the body armor, in the clothing, etc. Like if I just sort of flip back between the two there, you can see there's a much deeper engagement with the finer detail and stuff. So your money's obviously going into the figure. It's reflective in the quality of the figure that they're producing there. I'm not really arguing with the price. I'm just saying that if you are a Bravestarr fan and this Ramen Toys was a little bit outside of your budget, which it is for many, it is for me. But going up to 70 on a single figure is just far too much for me to consider. Then there's now a more budget alternative available. Although what I will say is, trying to research it and have a look around, I couldn't find a lot of information. There was only a handful of stores that I could track down in North America that had this on the books available for pre-order. It also appears to be announced, put up for pre-order, and is going to be ready to ship in a very small window of time, which I'm quite confident. I don't think I'm being particularly libelous here. I'm quite confident it's because the third-party manufacturer with an unlicensed product like this wants to just get it done and out quickly before there's any repercussions from the license holder. Who is the license holder, actually? Who owns Bravestarr? Well, so it looks like it was Mattel back in the 80s, which I actually knew. Once I Googled it and saw it, I was like, oh, yeah. I don't know if they're particularly litigious, but I imagine that they are. But anyway, in any case, there we go. If you're a fan of Bravestarr, if you like me, stuff that's 80s childhood nostalgia, Saturday morning cartoon stuff catches your eye, then that may be of interest, especially if the Ramen Toys one's outside of your budget. You're looking for something a little bit more cost effective. All right, well, while we're talking about Saturday morning cartoons, let's move up to the next kind of piece that caught my eye, and it's the Super7 Dungeons and Dragons range, which again kind of caught my eye, less because I'm interested in picking them up necessarily. I watched the cartoon when I was a kid, but I'm much more, or you can't see it, but I'm much more into I like hardcore fantasy nerds, so I want the NECA kind of bits and bobs here and there. Me War, Duke, me Start, Strongheart. I've got my Elkhorn Dwarf on the way. When's he due to? I better check when my pre-orders. That should be shipping soon. Anyway, but what caught my eye about this? Well, a couple of reasons. First is that I feel like the animated series D&D figure wave that Hasbro did themselves was a little bit off the mark. From what I heard round and about, and a few of the folks that I listen to in the community and have a bit of a relationship with, they were a little unimpressed. Like, the folks over at the Toy Duo had a few words to say about it, and I saw some reviews. Kind of missed the mark, was a bit rough around the edges, not well engineered, and was lacking a little bit of something in that kind of animated style. Whereas Super7 now have the license. Getting to the point, that's what's on the screen right now. Is the Super7 versions of it, and I think, while I'm not the biggest fan of Super7 broadly speaking, I think Super7 are a good fit for this type of figure and for this style of design, this type of figure production, despite the price tag, which I'll talk about in a second. But again, talking about the figures themselves, I think Super7 have definitely put a few elements, a few aspects into the figures that combat some of the criticisms that folks had of the Hasbro's, their direct D&D animated series line. So, if we go over here and take a look at Hank, for example, we've got the head swaps with the various different faces, one of which is much more kind of dynamic and action orientated towards firing his bow. We've got the hand swaps, the promotional pictures indicate that bow's got some customization to whether to have the energy arrow on or not, and those types of things. The face sculpt designs are interesting and cool, and I believe it's going to feel a bit more textured and a better put together, broadly speaking, than the Hasbro ones. Less kind of lightweight and thin and flimsy and old school. That was broadly what I heard. And, if you take a look at Sheila, for example, up here, same again, head swaps, hand swaps. That's a soft goods cloak of invisibility for her there, although it looks like, tiling in the back office of a bank or something, like really bad carpet pan. But anyway, it's there, so it's got a little bit more going on. I really like this sort of cheeky looking one there. It's eye-catching, And there's a couple of villains too. So we've got Dekion here, again, with a nice cartoon animated series aesthetic to him. Looks to have some nice sculpted detail, head swaps, hand swaps, bit of weaponry and things. Then we've got the demons. Where are they? There you go, the shadow demons here as well, with that nice little kind of transparent bit on the bottom here that attaches to this like kind of miniature sort of stand thing. Clawed hand swaps, they look nice. I like the color choices. in there for what is essentially a very basic looking figure. That's a 2-pack, that one as well. And so a little villain selection. So it's overall pretty good looking, and I think an excellent fit for the animated style that they're looking for, that's reflective of the original cartoons, but with some modern elements to the actual 3-dimensional action figure experience that they're offering. And so, yeah, Super 7 is a solid fit. However, all that said, the downside of this is that Super 7, I think, are pricey. They're too pricey for what they actually are, for what they offer. These are $55. Although, oddly enough, they're $55 in North America, but they're also £55 here in the UK. I mean, how do you figure that with exchange rates and what have you? But whatever. So I think they're overpriced for what they are, despite the fact that I think they're a vast improvement on what Hasbro offered the first time around in this IP. But further to that, I often see Super 7 stuff getting reduced, dropped down in price, moving down more into the kind of 30, 35 mark, which I think is a bit more appropriate for the types of figures. I've had my eye on the Cobra Commander from the G.I. Joe line that they do for a little while now, and I thought about a Transformer, like an Optimus Prime or something. My collection is significantly lacking in Transformers at this very moment in time. I got rid of them all, but yeah. So there you go. Super 7 D&D. I just caught my eye really because it, again, like with the Bravestarr, it's the same IP, the same line by a different company in such a small window of time, which I find really curious. Okay, and then moving over on my whiteboard, let's just minimise that and find it. There it is up here. I wanted to take some time to talk about McFarlane Toys. There has been some new figures announced that are up on the screen right now. Been some new figures announced, a new wave, but again, regular viewers will know that at the moment I'm a little bit salty about McFarlane Toys. Distribution and stock availability here in the United Kingdom, and I believe on the mainland in Europe as well, it has been really, really dire. I've got pre-orders in for a couple of McFarlane figures that I fancy, like the Catman and the Animal Man. Speaking to the friendly local independent retailers are saying, I didn't get the stock allocation that I was supposed to get. Some pre-orders are having to go unfulfilled right now. I was then told that the Wonder Woman, which I mentioned in an installment of this a couple of weeks back, is not officially coming to the UK, although it is on Amazon right now. If you're a UK viewer and you're watching this, I'll put the Amazon link down below because it's really hard to find. It's not even got a name in it properly. It just says TBA. It's ridiculous. That's shipping like tomorrow, hopefully, from Amazon. So it's really hard to find. Stock allocation's really low. Pre-orders are going unfulfilled for literally months and months and months and months and months. Like my Catman, I ordered early summer, like June, I think, off the top of my head, and still not come. Even though I saw North America, folks reviewing, action figure reviewers reviewing their Catman. Like literally in July, like the month later, which is a shame because McFarlane was quite consistent in that respect. So I'm quite salty about them at the moment anyway. I think he's neglecting the international markets, and there's always little touches, like whenever they run a competition on their Instagram, it says entrance Canada and United States only. It seems like an odd strategy of just ignoring any market outside of North America, and North America, US and Canada. And so I'm a bit salty about them anyway, unfulfilled, and I found the price of the Wonder Woman a little bit painful. I've paid over 30 quid for her, which is not ideal. See, that's the thing. If you watch any of my reviews around McFarlane Toys, because this is where I'm going with this, and if you've not heard about this yet, then it'll be a surprise to you, but I think most folks know what's going on here. McFarlane Toys, I don't think make that great a figure, to be honest, but I'm a DC fanboy. I like DC comic stuff, especially retro DC comic stuff with classic uniform designs. And so a good classic Wonder Woman, a good classic Superman, a good classic Batman. I've been picking up the Nightfall related figures lately because I loved that comic book arc, Nightfall, Night Quest, Night's End, when I was a young lad, and I was reading DC quite heavily in the early 90s in that respect, the Death Superman stuff. So it resonates with me again from a nostalgic point of view. And he's done a few more kind of classic uniform-looking characters rather than dragging out whatever he can toddify the most. You know, death metal, that's kind of a bit like Spawn. I'll do a load of death metal figures and all that. Batman Who Laughs, he's got spikes and chains and shit, so... Anyway, I'm not going to repeat rants I've had before about McFarlane. So I was already a bit salty, and then this new wave came out, and I thought, that's not a catching wave. Crisis on Infinite Earths, one of like the big DC events. Interesting characters in here, particularly the Superman there, which has got a good kind of classic Superman vibe about him. Although this is actually the Superman, the older age Superman from Crisis on Infinite Earths with the greyer sides, but still an attractive figure. And then you got the Spectre. Where's Spectre there? There he is. Got the Spectre here, and the Crisis on Infinite Earths look is a classic Spectre look. So even though it's Crisis on Infinite Earths, it's just a good classic Spectre, which is going to catch my eye. A bit less interested in Kid Flash and the Psycho Pirate there, but certainly a much more kind of landmark, accepted, recognised, ubiquitous comic book there. And I'm like, all right, well, yeah, maybe. I'll probably skip the Superman because I've pre-ordered one of the other new Supermen, which still hasn't come. But Spectre, yeah, I might give it a go. And then I sort of noticed all the Spider-Man's got a wired cloth cape, a bit of progress in the old McFarlane world. And while things like the articulation annoy me, and the fact that he's not moving forward with things like pin joints and that, they're still very well sculpted and good-looking figures for the price. I mean, some of the McFarlane stuff I bought, I picked up for 20 quid, between 20 and 25 quid. So I was really into it. And then it transpired that these are, one, McFarlane stores exclusive only. So here in the UK, the only way I can get my hands on them is to order direct from McFarlane. And as I've mentioned before, the minute you start talking about shipping and tax from the US to the UK, it's often a non-starter unless it's a particular piece of interest, like the Father Christmas I picked up over the festive season from Fresh Monkey Fiction. But also, they're at $40. Which is just balmy, absolutely insane. And so, that's like NECA levels of pricing. And I'm just like, well, that's possibly, maybe, we're getting much closer to the final nail in the coffin for McFarlane Toys from my perspective. And there's folks out there saying, well, you don't need to buy them. And they're right. So I'm not. It's as simple as that. There's a lot of speculation as to why this sudden price hike has happened. The cloth cape on Superman certainly doesn't justify this extreme increase, and there's nothing new or exciting on the other figures. It is a Build-A-Figure wave to make your anti-monitor there. Not your anti-monitor, sorry. Just the monitor. So it's got a Build-A-Figure part in it, but they're very low on accessory selection. There doesn't appear to be much else thrown in the packaging outside of the Build-A-Figure part and the kind of standard trading card that's chucked in. And, when you start talking about the same kind of prices, I mentioned before about the NECA D&D line, and you've got much more attractive looking figures that are sculpted and painted to the nth degree for basically the same price. Articulation-wise, less comparable, but it's neater articulation. It's tidier. It's less resistant to modern engineering. So they're pinless, and I'm not really all that fussed about pin or pinless sometimes because I acknowledge that they are action figures, but it's those little fine detail touches that make all the difference. Or when I think about G.I. Joe Classified, which I know I compare a lot of stuff to G.I. Joe Classified because it's my favourite line at the moment, but when I think I picked up my Snow Job for, how much was Snow Job? 35 quid? 36 quid? And all the stuff I got in there, or the Snow Serpent, or Chuckles, the deluxe ones and things. And I think about the added value and the quality of the figures and the accessories and such like, and I think that they're just not good enough to justify that price. That's the simple fact of the matter. They're just not good enough. So when folks are out and about and they're on the socials saying, "Oh, stop complaining, nobody's forcing you to buy them," they're right. So I'm not going to buy them. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to buy them. And the long and the short of it is I just don't think they're good enough to warrant that kind of price hike. Anyway, the speculation, that's what I was talking about. So some folks have speculated that the higher prices because Tom McFarlane has had to reduce his product runs and is selling less. And there's some speculation that there's been some ructions between McFarlane Toys and the big box retailers, you know, your Targets, your Walmarts of the world. There's some folks who've been emailing customer service and getting email replies to saying that there's some new tooling and the soft goods cost more and stuff. So how true that is or not, I don't know. I don't particularly care what the reason is. It's always interesting to have context, isn't it? But at the end of the day, I've just gone, yeah, you know what? These folks are right. There's no point banging on and complaining like a maniac. I'm just going to vote with my wallet and just not buy them. And you know, if you're a McFarlane collector, I would encourage you to do the same. Even though I have just spent sort of 5 minutes on this video complaining, the irony of that's not lost on me, folks. And that's it. That's all that's really caught my eye, or I wanted to comment on this in this instalment this week on Listen to Your Friend Chris. Or let's do the thing again.
Listen to your friend Chris.
There you go. That's me. I'm your friend Chris, and you've just listened to me. So that's, of course, not the long and the short, the breadth and depth of adult collectible news and information that's been knocking around, particularly with a 3-week gap since the last instalment of this series that I've done. So I would ask you and encourage you, if you're getting regular around these parts, you're starting to know me a little bit, you're out and about, you see something you think I might be interested in, get into the comments, let me know, or track me down on Discord or Facebook or something, or go to my Instagram. In fact, let's put the Insta and Twitter there so you can get in touch and say, hey, Chris, this caught my eye and I think you might be interested in that, because I definitely would welcome incoming information of that nature. Otherwise, thank you so very much for coming and hanging out with me for a few minutes. I hope to see you around these parts again sometime soon, and I'm wishing you a very wonderful day and the rest of the week. So take it easy, folks.